Hello, my name is Mona, and I would walk you through how I implemented the new read activity, which is the simple read activity. So, to begin with, for the setup, I had cloned the FHIR starter repository from the FHIR assignment starter post on Piazza. Here you can see that this post has a GitHub link which points us to the project folder. So, I imported this entire folder onto my Eclipse IDE. Uh, and I did that by going to File, Import, Maven, and then existing Maven projects. So that's how I set the entire code to my IDE. So once the setup is done, let me now walk you through the code and show you the changes I have made in the code to implement the simple read activity. So to begin with, here is the simpleread.java file. And the first task was to get a patient's name if we are given a patient ID. So here is the function, which is get name by patient ID. So here I've implemented this method by calling the FHIR API or the FHIR API, and that is essentially called the FHIR client API. Here I'm basically reading a patient resource for a given ID. And now within this patient resource, I get the primary name by calling the patient.getName first rep, which will get me their primary name, and then calling the getName as single string method, which essentially returns me the full name of the patient as a single string. So in order to display how all of this works, let me take you to the Happy FHIR API. Here in the Patients tab under CRUD operations, I have this patient ID. I could use any other ID, but this is just a sample ID. So once I've entered the ID, I just have to click on read, and this is the response that I received. I received a 200 OK response, and here is the response details. So here you can see I have a key value pair which points me to the patient's name for this particular ID, patient ID. So the patient's name is John Smith for ID 1447497. So now that I have these details, I go to my simplereadtest.java file and I input all of these values into my test. Similarly, you can find the name of the patient for ID 272565, and the name returned from the FHIR API is Caitlin Lee. And so I have inputted both of these strings as my expected patient name for the given IDs. I'll run the test shortly and show you how the tests run. So for this was all about the first task, first read activity, and now the second read activity. Let us go back to the simple read Java file, and the second activity is essentially to get a list of IDs for any patient substring name. So for example, if we're given any substring, we have to match it with a list of patient names for every patient that matches that name, and we would return a list of all of such IDs. So here I've implemented the search function. I'm running the search function on the client FHIR API. And this is essentially being done on the patient resource where the name substring matches, as I said, and then I get the resource from every bundle. And then I get the ID element and then extract the ID part which represents the actual ID, and I keep appending it to my list. Once I have processed the bundle, I look for something called link underscore next, which would tell me that there is another bundle present. And so if any bundle has a link.next, I continue forward and then I look into the next bundle. So I have a do while loop here, which essentially keeps running into the loop till I have processed all of the bundles. Now to verify this, let us go back to the Fire API, the Happy Fire API server, where again we go to patients. Now instead of going to CRUD operations, we go to the search tab, and here, instead of searching by language, we search by name. There are tons of different keywords using which you could search. So here we want to search by name, and let's say that we want to look for someone named Dave. So we run this search. We know that the query string parameters that were passed was name is equal to Dave, and we have received 7 hits. So here you can see that from the API server that these are the responses that we have received. And so each of these has a key called ID, which is also here in the query params. So our task is to extract all of these query params and then keep appending it to our list. And that is exactly what I've done here in this piece of code. So let me walk you through the test file here. So essentially in the test get IDs function, I have set the name as Dave. My server base's URL is also set. And then I am testing that my expected output should have all of these IDs present, which I just extracted from the Fire API server. So let me run my tests. So I'm running the Maven test command, but I'm running this command only on simple read test because that is exactly what we want to test right now. So once I run this test, it's currently processing and running the tests. So as you can see here, the tests ran. Both the tests were successful. So that proves that our simple read activity is working perfectly fine. So that'll be all. Thank you.